before you draft a single word, regardless of your discipline, field of study, or subject. Take a close look at your assignment prompt or dissertation question if you're doing research, and I want you to identify 3 types of words in the assignment prompt: directive words, topic words, and limiting words. The directive words are about what you are being asked to do. Topic words are about what your focus should be. Limiting words are boundaries or scope restrictions. Now, this may feel like a small evident step, but it lays the foundation for everything else: brainstorming, researching, and writing your final draft, of course. So start here, and the rest of your writing process will be smoother, faster, and less stressful. This is step 1 of 4 steps of your assignment writing process that I will be covering in this tutorial. Whether you are new to academic writing, feeling stressed, or struggling with time management, this will be your roadmap to completing your assignment or dissertation. By the end, or towards the end, I will also share a powerful method that will turbo boost your writing speed so much that you want to stop until it's finished. First is unpacking your assignment or essay prompt. Second is brainstorming and gathering information and sources. 3, synthesizing and organizing. 4 is a final step. Well, actually not the final one, but writing. Now, a lot of people or a lot of students assume that writing is actually the process, while, as you can see, it's really one stage of the process. You need to follow these steps in order because the first 3 steps make up about 70% of the writing process, and the actual writing is only about 30%. Back to the first step. Let's take this as an example. Let's say you have this essay question or assignment prompt. Discuss the impact of social media on adolescent mental health, and in your response, consider both positive and negative effects and support your discussion with relevant studies. So here is a breakdown of this question. Directive words would be discuss, and sometimes we call this instructional verbs. It's really important to understand the meaning of these verbs and how it might differ from one word to another. Discuss here means explain, explore, and evaluate the topic. The topic words would be social media, adolescent mental health. These are the main focus area. And limiting words will be positive and negative effects and support with the relevant studies. So these are key elements of answering the question. Depending on the assignment, you might be asked to focus on positive effects only. So there will be no need to elaborate on both of them. So you need to know exactly what you're asked to do. Once you have done this, just to make sure that you have understood the question fully, what you can do, you can restate the question in your own words. For example, in our example, you could say something like, I need to explain how social media affects the mental health of teenagers, covering both benefits and drawbacks, using research to support my points. Restating your question in your words also helps you to start thinking of other sub-questions that will help you move into the next stage, which is searching and finding, gathering information, doing some initial reading and gathering resources as well. Step 2 is brainstorming and gathering sources and information. Here you can responsibly use AI tools like ChatGPT, but with caution. Using AI appropriately can save you time and give you access to a huge range of relevant data like studies, theories, and other scholarly contributions. The risk here is, of course, cheating or violating your university's policies in relation to academic integrity. I would like you to think of it here as working, so better to carefully balance than fall. This is why, at this point, I have to emphasize this before I go further. It's really crucial to know what AI tool you're using because you may generate full text. Just allow AI to do the thinking. Now, you want tools that assess your research without replacing you or doing the critical thinking. ChatGPT is useful for brainstorming ideas and expanding topics, but you need to avoid relying on it for like factual data or citations. It can provide inaccurate or fake sources or references. That's why you need different types of tools. They basically help you to highlight influential papers and key concepts, to map networks of papers related to a key study or to your question, visualize papers. They can help you also like find relevant research questions, summaries, and references. But still remember, you're the one who's doing the reading and writing of your own content. And of course, as a rule, always check your university's AI policy and consult your supervisor if you have one. What I want you to realize here is that first, these AI tools are not necessarily exhaustive. Two, the sources they find may not always be quite academically appropriate or credible. Now, for example, always check that journals are legitimate. Look for specific details showing that the journals are peer-reviewed, details like volume and issue number. And sometimes students might be confused between just an online article and a journal article. Sometimes the format is quite similar, they look the same. That's why you need to train your eye to be able to spot these details and know which one of them is a proper academic text. This also means that you need to, instead of over-relying on AI tools to gather sources, you need to supplement with books, chapters in books, and as we say, peer-reviewed journals. So don't rely on AI generated sources without checking them. You need to make sure that the reader, your supervisor, or any reader reading your assignment will be able to actually find the source. Remember, AI can hallucinate citations. Other thing you need to consider is the library of your university. Some valuable sources may only exist in print. Sometimes you'll be handed a kind of reading list by your subject tutor or supervisor. And here you can use one of the well-known search engines like Google Scholar, JSTOR, and Web of Science, and other similar search engines. So the key here is to vary your sources and methods. And always avoid procrastination at any cost. The reason why I'm saying that is because a lot of the time, people resort to the convenience of AI and online sources because they run out of time. So they wait until the last minute, and this limits your research to this kind of convenience of AI. So we don't want speed and convenience to compromise quality. Let's move on to step 3, synthesizing and organizing research. Now, I'm going to break this step down into 3 parts. Be careful, order matters here. This is a stage where you demonstrate that you are in control. You show your ability to think critically, analyze effectively, and produce writing that reflects your own voice. Okay, so part 1 is to synthesize. So what is synthesis? Now, during gathering your sources and information, collecting information, you don't just list studies. You need to identify patterns, trends, and gaps. So ask yourself, how do these studies relate? Do they agree, contradict, or build on one another? I will show you later on, or towards the end of this tutorial, an effective method you can apply to achieve this. Also, at this stage, synthesis, you can use ChatGPT to help you compare theories, methods, and findings, but only based on the sources that you provide. This is really important. And the reason why I'm saying that is that you are now moving from scanning and gathering to identifying the most relevant sources and doing a close, detailed reading. We call this close reading. So this is where you draw a line between your work and the machine's work. Now, setting clear boundaries and making sure that you are in the driving seat. So part 2, and remember we're still talking about the same stage here, synthesizing and organizing. Part 2 is to organize your content into themes or arguments. So there are several ways you could structure your findings logically. You could follow, for example, a thematic approach, grouping your topics by topic or concept, or chronological, follow the timeline of research developments, or you can group your ideas based on similarities or differences. So this would be comparing findings or viewpoints and see which ones actually are similar. It could be problem, solution, cause, effect, So you present issues and responses, or causes and outcomes, or you can go by significance or impact. So you highlight influential or key studies first. Again, this is something that can be determined by the nature of your literature review, the emerging information, data, theories, and by the discipline or research question. Moving to part 3, we're still talking about the same stage here, synthesizing and organizing. Part 3 is drawing your own conclusions. Now, while you are analyzing and making connections between ideas, interpreting your evidence, and linking your evidence back to your research question or thesis, you are also forming an opinion and taking a stance. Remember back in step 1, when we talk about this kind of specific words or components of your assignment. For example, in our social media topic, you might weigh in the pros and cons of the social media's impact on teen mental health, and then lean towards one side. Say, that the negative effects outweigh the positives. So here, your argument might start edging towards this, like social media exerts both positive and negative effects, but the harmful impact outweigh the benefit. Now, this is really important, this part of your writing, because it lets you share your own insights, add your commentary, and show evaluation. Now, this is where your critical thinking and analytical skills shine. So a lot of students skip this step and then get feedback like, this is just a list of studies, it lacks evaluation or voice. So commentary is very, very important part or element of your writing. It fixes this issue. So that's why maybe it is worth elaborating a little bit on this. What exactly is commentary? It means going back beyond simply summarizing or listing what other researchers said. Instead, you are showing your thinking, connecting ideas, interpreting what they mean, and evaluating how strong or weak the evidence is. So commentary typically involves explaining significance, why the study matters to your argument, showing relationships, how one study supports, contrasts, or builds on another, evaluating, noting strengths, weaknesses, or limitations, also linking to your point, so making clear how the evidence supports your claim. So in short, listing studies tell the reader what's out there, but commentary tells your reader what it means and why it matters to your argument. So remember, AI is a research assistant, not a writer. You are the researcher, the analyst, the writer. So by following this approach, you can access a wide range of material efficiently without letting AI take over your thinking. In the writing stage, it is important to understand the structure of a paragraph. That's where we talk about the P methods: point, evidence, explain, link. So a point is when you start with a clear statement or argument. This is sometimes what we call topic sentence. Evidence, this would be followed by supporting ideas. So you need to support this statement with data, examples, or quotes. Then you have explanation. So you analyze the evidence and show how it supports your point. And then you connect back to the main argument or transition smoothly to the next paragraph. So finally, one essential step, this is the synthesis and organizing. Now, this can be quite vague and challenging, especially for beginner student writers. As I promised at the start of the video, I'm going to show you how you can develop your text through these stages to increase your writing speed and efficiency. So this is where we talk about this method, the fill the boxes draft method. So here is the deal. I'm going to show you a method that's basically a turbo boost for your writing. It's going to help you write faster and dodge writer's block completely. The goal is to get your assignment done fast. The key rule: spend 70% of your time planning and gathering information and only 30% actually writing. The real speed comes from solid preparation, not frantic typing. So while synthesizing, you need to do these two things. First, you make your boxes. Second, you dump your notes into each box. How do you make your boxes? Open a new document. Now, before writing a single sentence, create your section headings. Think of them like empty boxes you will fill later. So, for example, going back to our topic, the link between social media and teenagers' mental health. You could talk about positive effects of social media on teens, for example, access to peer support, mental health awareness and resources. When you're talking about the negative impacts or effects, you can talk about cyberbullying, harassment, unrealistic beauty standards, body image, excessive screen time. Now, remember, and then we have counter arguments. I'm going to talk about this in more detail in a bit. But why this matters? These boxes are your major themes, big ideas that keep showing up and across multiple studies. If you only see or pick an idea which is mentioned in one source only, it's too weak to carry a whole section. But if it pops up in several sources, you have got the material to build strong paragraphs. So what is it about the counter argument? Now, this is where you include research that doesn't agree with your stance. Because you remember what we said earlier, by now, you already know your position in relation to this kind of topic. So it's easier to sort out the studies and arguments, to weigh them up, and use them to strengthen your own argument. So counter argument show that you have read widely, you have considered kind of different perspectives, you have thought critically about the evidence, and also you have spotted limitations and weaknesses in studies. By the way, if you are short on time or you're struggling to find counter argument, now here is a little tip. You can grab your counter arguments from a source you already have. So often studies list their own limitations. So quote or paraphrase it, then respond to it. Here are some useful phrases that indicate limitations in studies. So here I'm also adding a link below the video where you can find many more of this kind of phrases that will help you in your reading and writing, especially if you're working on dissertation or research project. And remember, counter arguments also can slot into your explain or link part of your peel paragraph structure. These kind of parts are also perfect spot to add your own commentary and show your writer's voice. So these are the boxes. Now, the second thing you need to do here is to dump your notes into each box. We're still talking about synthesizing and organizing and how you can develop this part in the process of your writing. So again, we're talking about the 70% planning that is happening here. So you go through your sources and drop short bullet points into the right box. No full sentences, no grammar worries, just key points plus where you found them. And this is something important, actually, I should have emphasized earlier. Make sure that you have a full record of complete and full references of the sources that you use so that you can associate or link each idea to the source where it's coming from. For example, if you're talking about cyberbullying or harassment, so this is an example of bullet point, just a few words and then the source where the idea is coming from. Especially if you have statistics, because you're going to use this as evidence later on in developing your paragraph. Then at the writing stage, you will turn bullets into sentences, and this is basically the 30% writing time, okay? So now you go one box at a time and turn each bullet into 2 or 3 sentences in your own words. You want to avoid plagiarism. And then you can connect these words using connecting words so your paragraph flows logically and coherently. Here is an important insight. The way you develop your argument and answer your question in the writing process is very different from how your assignment looks at the end as a final finished product. So as a finished product, you have introduction, body, and then conclusion at the end. While if you look at this during the writing process, you start from the middle and then you just spread out. You're just like a water ripple spread out outward. So this means that the last part of you're going to write are the introduction and the conclusion because they need to reflect exactly what your main body says. So once your boxes are full and your argument is clear, the introduction and the conclusion just wrap everything up. Now you've got a repeatable system. Use it for every assignment and you'll never face a blank page panic again.